Hey Winterfest, the guys at Winterfest asked me to do a short video talking about spiritual disciplines, and I thought a lot about what I should talk about, and the thing I really want to talk to you about is this idea of silence and the spiritual discipline of silence. And I do a lot of research at my job. I interview lots of young people and youth pastors and parents. Over the last 17 years, the company that I work at, we've interviewed something like 300,000 people, so we interview lots of people. And it's interesting because I think the idea of silence is really difficult for us in our culture today, of not saying something, of choosing to be quiet, of choosing to be sort of responsive to what the Lord is saying to us. And this idea of silence is so important for a couple of reasons, I think, in our culture today. First of all, we live in a very media-oriented world, very technologically drenched world. We have our iPhones, we have our mobile devices, we have our computers. And having done a lot of research, I'm really concerned that for young people, I'm 37, but I interview a lot of teenagers, I'm concerned that Jesus is getting lost in the data stream, that there's so much information, so much stuff, so much media, so much content, that sometimes we're just not silent before the Lord. And so that's one of the most important reasons why we need to practice silence, of just not talking, of just being quiet before the Lord, of just soaking in what God wants to tell us. And there's another thing that for me personally that the Lord's been really teaching me about silence, and that is that we have to be careful not to always try to defend ourselves and defend our reputation. And listen, there's a place for that. There's a place for us to describe what's happening and what's happened and how we've tried to respond to issues. But for your generation, I think one of the challenges is that we're so interested in telling everybody what we think, of tweeting our thoughts, of posting on Facebook, of explaining ourselves, of wanting to be heard, that I think sometimes that's pulling us away from what God wants us to do. Again, it's not that those things are bad, but that if we don't practice silence in those moments of our lives, we actually miss something. And so here's a great story from my life where this practice of silence was so important. There's a recent circumstance where a friend of mine had really deeply offended me, and we had been working through some stuff, and we're actually working on a project together. But the way that he responded, it was just so over the top. I mean, he really reacted negatively, and he really assaulted and really called into question some things about me. And I really made the choice that because of this issue of silence, and my friends at Winterfest had asked me to do this, and I've been thinking about silence and the spiritual practice of silence. And so I thought, all right, this is a great example of where everything in me wants to come and actually respond to this, wants to describe and tell my friend what I really think. And I chose a different path. I chose this path of silence. And there were a lot of places where I had an opportunity to tell on my friend, to rat him out, to say, look at what he has done. He's really treated me badly in the circumstance. And I kept choosing, okay, I'm not gonna say anything about this because this is between me and God, and I'm not gonna rat him out on this. And it was really interesting how the Lord really started to help me think differently about the situation. And there were even instances where I really thought that he would end up missing the point, and actually there was a really neat restoration that took place in our friendship as a result, really partly from the choice I made to be silent in that circumstance. So this idea of spiritual discipline of silence, it's a way that we can listen to the Lord in our lives, to really hear from Him in this data stream that we have. And it's also a way for us to be careful about not protecting our own reputation, because sometimes our reputation isn't really worth protecting. We're not gonna, our friends don't really need us to defend ourselves, and our enemies aren't gonna really care. So being silent instead is a way for us to really honor what the Lord's trying to do in our lives. So hey, have a great Winterfest, and thanks for listening to this and checking out these different spiritual disciplines. It's so important that we consider the role of spiritual disciplines in our lives.